From midnight tonight, all petrol and diesel sold on UK forecourts must contain 2.5% renewable biofuels. But there's growing criticism of the dash for biofuel, particularly palm oil, which is blamed for deforestation and the loss of land for food crops, contributing to soaring food prices. But nowhere is the dash for biofuel more controversial than in Colombia, where thousands of peasant farmers have been killed or violently evicted to make way for the palm plantations. Guillermo Galdas has this report.
For over 50 years, the Renteria family has lived growing maize in this remote forest of northern Colombia. But 10 years ago, the paramilitaries arrived to this area and murdered two brothers, accusing them of supporting left-wing guerrillas. That same day, Luis Ovidio decided to abandon his farm and took all the family away with him. They became part of the 3 million internally displaced people in Colombia. In 2005, the Renteria family decided to go back to their farm and start their lives again. But their land had been taken by the same people who displaced them. All their maize and jam crops were gone. Instead, there was African palm, a main source for biodiesel.
Many people died here because of African palm. The conflict started here when the palm arrived, and it is the palm that pays for the war in this area. With that money they killed many people, and those who were not killed were terrorized and sold their land.
The demand for biofuels in the West left Luis Ovidio Renteria and his family without a place to live. Today, they are fighting to stay alive and to keep what is theirs. Colombia has become the main producer of biodiesel in Latin America and the second producer of ethanol after Brazil. This oil being extracted from the palm fruit will probably end up in Europe and the United States. The country intends to develop 300,000 hectares of palm in the next 4 years. At the Ministry of Agriculture in Bogota, palm has become one of the main priorities of the current government.
We have more than 10 million hectares we can develop with palm. We have 3 million hectares ready to be planted. So we're producing less than 10% of the palm the country should have.
But at what cost? Jorge Elias and his wife Maria have been waiting for more than 5 years for their land to be returned. Jorge used to have a grocery shop and a house in the town of Andalusia in the Chocó province. Nowadays, there is no sign of life around here. Even the town cemetery is covered with palm.
Friends and family were killed here to fertilize this palm with their dead bodies. The paramilitaries killed my brother. They cut his head off and opened him up as if he was an animal.
10 years ago, hundreds of people used to live here, more than 50 families. There was a medical post and school there. But one day the paramilitaries arrived and they were forced out. In 1997, the paramilitary Northern Bloc arrived in the area with a terror campaign accusing farmers of supporting the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. But their fight, more than political, was about economics. Thousands of people were killed and disappeared in order to stay with the land. 64-year-old Enrique Petro lost 130 hectares of his land at the hands of the paramilitaries. Despite death threats, Petro is nowadays fighting to move the palm out of his land.
The army takes care of the entrepreneurs, those who stole our land. They are not here to look after us, but to guard them.
We encountered the army patrolling the palm plantations and tried to speak with them, but they refused. They are from the 16th Brigade, which has many accusations for human rights violations in the area.
The people that are suffering because of some of the decisions that are being made in Europe about biofuels are the very people that used to live here. Colombia has got a big program to expand its biofuel industry over the next few years. But linked to that is a huge amount of displacement. Hundreds of thousands of people are being displaced in Colombia every year and have been for the last 10, 20 years.
At the UNHCR offices in Bogota, they believe the displacement is far worse of what people know.
5 million hectares of land have been lost as a result of forced displacement. This means that the country's 3 million displaced people were the owners of 5 million hectares of land. These lands have been taken away from them.
While people in Europe and the United States are keen to satisfy the thirst for biodiesel without ensuring where it comes from, people like Jorge will continue to lose their land and maybe also their lives.
Guillermo Galdas reporting.